This lighting is horrendous. I can't see any of you, but I'd like to see you a little better. For starters, I'm really happy to be here. I've come to this event before, and I have to say I'm really blown away by the turnout that I think I can see. Can you turn up the lights so I can see? In the audience, how many people are here? That's not a very good job. I think I'll use my flash. I'm going to take a picture of you all. And I'm going to send it back to a lot of my friends in the US, because one of the things that I'm really disturbed about is the lack of US investors here. The quality is terrific. You had Andrew and Chris speaking earlier. I know them both. But the quantity is horrendous. And this is an event that many more VCs should be attending, because the number of entrepreneurs and the number of innovative ideas is very, very high. And it's expected, really, for those of us that know this region. So I'm going to take a poll real quick and ask you, how many of you have mobile phones? I really have to get out of this. That looks like about 100%. How many of them are smartphones? Also 100%. This is going to be a little lower number. How many of you have data plans? Okay, but you have smartphones. All right. And how many of you use them for something other than voice and SMS? Yeah, everybody. Good. And how many of you have a business or an app or a startup or an idea that could be developed and used on the mobile platform, could improve the mobile platform, could be paid for on the mobile platform? Okay, good. Well, the rest of you may want to leave, but those of you that, well, now I can see great. The rest of you may want to leave, because I'm here to talk about sort of the intersection between innovation and wireless carriers and their need for innovation. I think in markets like this, where internet penetration is not fully 100%, and where smartphones represent one of the most important methods of getting to the internet, these kind of relationships between innovators and carriers are the most important. I'll give you a little bit of my background. I am obviously probably the oldest speaker you'll have, and I've been in the wireless business for about 30 years. Started a company in the US with a couple of other people called Nextel. It was a wireless carrier. We were in the right place at the right time, thankfully. We ended up selling it for $35 billion. And that was a really excellent transaction, so I'm a lucky person. And as a lucky person, I get to do only what I want to do. And what I like to do is invest and add value to startup companies. So these days, I'm a partner at Lumia Capital. We're a relatively small but quite targeted US firm that also invests in MENA, Europe, and LATAM. I have to admit, we do not have a Turkish investment yet, but I'm looking hard. But I also have to say right away, we focus on growth stage. And I know that comes as a great disappointment, because most of the people that I meet here are relatively early stage, and they're anxiously looking for, sort of Series A or even seed funding. And that's not something we do. Having said that, we love to meet you and hear about your business as it grows over time. I could go to the slides. I think I won't do that yet. So what I want to talk about, again, is that reason that your innovation belongs with the carriers. And to start that, I would like to just give you a little bit of how I view the carrier world, having been in it for 30 years. So what this slide is intended to show, and I think these slides, you guys can have them later, and if you can't get them through here, reach out to me and I'll give them to you, because I think they really give you a sense of what's happening. The gist of this slide, this is a consumer-focused slide, and I'll show you a couple of enterprise ones, is to show what you're using your device for. And actually, I'm looking around, and I see one person here. That's good. No, I like that. I see another one here. Not that many of you. Generally speaking, when I speak to tech crowds, everybody's face is in their device. And I love that because I'm in the mobile business. So I think it's a wonderful thing. So go back to using them. Multitask, triple task, do whatever you're going to do. But this is the evidence of that. The time on the device, the numbers that these circles represent is maybe an hour in the 2010, 2 hours in 2015, 3 hours in 2020. But the most important part about this is the shrinking percentage of time that people are using the device for what it was originally intended, voice and messaging. And that's compelling and really interesting. This is the spend associated with that. So a similar shrinkage of the voice and SMS percentage overall. The spend is not increasing as rapidly as the usage. That's great for the consumer, maybe not so great for the carrier, but it's the real world. This is the same concept in the enterprise, and you can see a little less shrinkage of the voice and SMS, and that I think is because you're going to have a lot of voice-enabled enterprise technologies, and so the voice will matter. And the spend, because of that, is not going to shrink as much. But overall, these trends are quite compelling. Both the shrinkage of voice, the increase in the data experience, and the amount of time that people are using their devices. One of the reasons they're so compelling for those of you who bring innovation is this number here on the, I'll point up here, there, the top number. That 4.6 is in dollars, and it's in trillions. So that is a huge opportunity. And what that represents in the light blue is the percentage that you could have an opportunity to partake of. And that, I think, is really important. And it's, basically a great path to getting your technology adopted. So we know that telcos feel that they're marginalized, the wireless carriers, some of the fixed line carriers who are getting into wireless. And they are being, because they live in a world where they have 5-year budget cycles. And they live in a world where they have strategic planning cycles that are 2 years. And they live in a world where they're happy to tell you, come back next year with your technology because I may have budget for it. And in the venture side, what I see is a world where people change, they pivot in 2 weeks. They budget for 3 months. They analyze their data every day and make decisions accordingly, and they react quickly. And that's the way the world is moving. That's innovation. And this is a mismatch, obviously. But what's happening, if you can remember the slide where the light blue is 90% of the consumer experience, that is going to be a world where we're consuming data in various forms on the device for hours a day. And that means that our buying decision with the carrier is going to change drastically. We're not going to be buying minutes or bits or buckets. We're not going to be buying a prepaid card. We're going to be buying a digital experience. And that digital experience could be, gosh, I want my music this way. I want my video content this way. I want my health this way. I want my financial life this way. I want my love life this way. And that is how the carriers are going to have to find direction through innovation to approach their customers. Because we have multiple carriers in every market. And there is going to be one that finds the way to appeal to, I should have asked ages, but that probably wouldn't have been right, to the youngest segment of this population, which is what they want to appeal to. So what that means is that carriers are going to try to innovate. They've been trying for 10 or 15 years. Just look at these, rough percentages there of R&D budgets. That's Facebook, obviously, and that's the average carrier, and that's about 13%, and that's about 2%. They'll never be able to innovate. They can't do it from a dollars perspective, and they can't do it from a DNA perspective. But they need to. And so, you guys come into play. How do they do it? They're going to have to build their platforms better than they are today. They're going to have to make them easy. I know we have I know there's some Turkcell folks here who know this and work at it, and it can't happen overnight. But they're going to have to make basically themselves into an easy to plug into platform so that next week's hot music partnership or video content partnership or childcare app can plug in at a moment's notice. And sadly for you all, it may plug out at a moment's notice if your product is no longer relevant. They're also going to have to bring innovation to the front end of their network and get all of the middle up in the cloud. They can't possibly have the ridiculous lack of data analytics that they have today, even though they have the most powerful data in the world that could help you get customers. So the point of this slide really is to show that they are beginning to take good steps toward partnering with innovators. And you guys are the innovators that they need to partner with. I won't go through these slides in detail, but because they're actually kind of boring. But you can see from the telco private investment that there's some vast webs of investment that some of the most progressive telcos have tried to get out there to find innovation. And I think Andrew spoke a little earlier about the benefits of big corporations doing that. Sadly, at certain times, many of these corporations have failed dramatically. They've spent a lot of money, but what they've not done, they've seen a lot of opportunities too. They've spent a lot of man-hours, but what they've not done is actually found a way to translate that into implementation of the technology. And so many of them have backed away. I think the imperative of today puts you guys in a much better position because there is no way they can back away from it. They must pursue it. We can see what the benefits might be. I'm not going to go through all these examples, but they need what you have, which is the innovation and the robust access to the latest thinking and the touch of the customer. This is a Comcast. That's a U.S. company. They did a deal with iControl. Orange and Deezer was a pretty good deal for them. They really moved on into the content space. Verizon and It's On is a Silicon Valley company, so it's probably a better example, a relatively small company. And they got a lot of benefits from those. I'll skip through these other examples again. These will be available to you. But let's see if we can skip to that. Let's focus on this one. And I need to leave time for questions too. Sorry about that. So what you're really looking for is how to approach these carriers and know what you bring to the table. And you can see right here what they bring to you. It's fairly clear. They bring enormous distribution. They bring incredibly powerful data about their customers. They know where their customers are. They often know what they're paying for, when they're paying for it. They can use that location to determine if they're fully employed, if they live far from where they work, if they sleep in multiple places, if they work in multiple places, they also can provide the magic of connectivity that makes so many technologies work today, whether it's a drone, a robot, a Fitbit. All those things are really only relevant because they sit on a platform of ubiquitous or near ubiquitous connectivity, which is part of the wireless ecosystem. What we both know when we're sitting with innovators and with the carriers is that you do belong together. And I want to sort of go into maybe a couple of examples, because what is the very good news, they want to do this innovation. The very bad news is they still don't know how. And companies can die on the vine trying to get it done. I met a very smart, I don't know if you're in here, Greek entrepreneur just a little earlier today who managed to get a deal done with Vodafone. Yeah, he's back there in the back. Awesome. I might even put my laser on you. Is it going to reach? Is it going to blind you? There he is. And you should congratulate him. In fact, we should all give him a round of applause. A startup, not deeply funded, not a deep customer base, only 6 months to get a deal. Now, his company worked with Vodafone for a number of years, so they had a leg up. But think of that, 6 months. That still sucks. That's terrible. But that's a success story, because what that means is his technology, which is really about a unified communication platform and taking access to contacts and blending them across enterprises, is going to have access to all of those enterprise customers. And if you take Vodafone and think about it, they're starting in their local market, Greece, but then they're going to expand out through the rest of the Vodafone networks. If this works with them, that's a major stamp of approval and source of revenue. That company is basically made now, if that deal works. So I'm going to stop for just a second, because there are multiple ways that this can be done, and see if there are any questions from the audience, because we're going to run out of time, and really the goal was to get your input on this. I can hear you, but I bet nobody else can.
Hi. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Zafer. I'm the co-founder of a startup. We are creating a mobile education application for children with autism. And we want to be willing to work with mobile carriers, but we don't know how to start with it and how to approach with them to make partnership with us. And I think that you can have a huge information about that topic, and I want to ask about that.
Okay, well, number one, that sounds like a great product, and I'd love to see how it works. And I think that's a product that probably spans a number of focus areas for carriers. I mean, it falls into ed tech, and it falls into some of their buckets around a childhood experience or parental relationships with child. And I think that since I don't know exactly how you're going to exploit it and how you're going to charge for it, I'll say these things to you. One, there will be people typically in a carrier now whose job is to find partnerships. I'm sure there are people in this room whose job it is to find partnerships for carriers. But what they can bring is payments, they can bring eyeballs, and what you can bring is not only an impact, a positive social impact, but you can bring eyeballs, you can bring users, you can bring data consumption, And that's what they want. One thing I want to just warn you about, and this is anybody who deals with carriers will learn this soon enough, but you need to learn it, you need to know it early. You cannot rely on one path in. You may start with one path in, but you always have to triangulate, because what carriers are is a group of very well-minded people. They want to do their jobs well, but they also don't want to lose their jobs. And so they are absolutely risk-averse, but they're absolutely willing to talk. And so you can have one meeting, 2 meetings. I get this all the time with companies. I've met for the 3rd time with Verizon, so I know we're in. You don't know anything. 3 meetings, 5 meetings, 8 meetings. The number of meetings has no relationship to the probability of doing a deal. What you have to find out is there financing for this program or whatever they're going to offer you? You might be a really good candidate for some sort of subsidized data or zero-rated data, which I know, flows in and out at different times with the carriers, because you're offering a benefit, but it's also one that if parents had that with their Turkcell, let's say, device, it's going to be incredibly sticky. It's going to keep that customer forever. Uh-oh. Am I out of time, or can I wrap it up? Oh, well. Here, I'm going to be down there, so I suspect that there may be some other people that have relevant questions, and I'd be happy to try to answer them. I'm pretty easy to spot. There are not that many bald pink heads here in the audience. And so just reach out to me, and thank you very much for paying attention, and thank you for using your device during my talk.